The man she loved married someone else on live TV while she waited for him with packed bags. Elena Martinez thought she knew what betrayal felt like. She was wrong. At 3:47 a.m., alone in a rain-soaked safe house, with her entire life crammed into 2 suitcases, she watched the man who promised forever say, "I do," to another woman. Adrian Moretti, Mafia boss, her lover, her future, stood at an altar in a $10 million ceremony while she sat on a mattress that smelled like mold and broken promises. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this tale travels. The rain started at 2 a.m., which Elena took as a sign. She'd always loved rain. The way it washed things clean made the world feel smaller and safer. Tonight, though, the drops hammering against the safe house windows sounded like accusations. She checked her phone again. Nothing. Adrian was supposed to be here 2 hours ago. They'd planned this down to the minute. He'd leave the estate at midnight, take the back roads through the industrial district, pick her up, and by dawn they'd be crossing state lines in a car with fake plates and a trunk full of cash. New names, new lives, no more looking over their shoulders. Elena had believed him because she was an idiot, or maybe because she was in love, which amounted to the same thing. The safe house was a dump, Adrian's word, not hers. A 2-room apartment above an abandoned dry cleaner in a neighborhood where people knew better than to ask questions. The furniture consisted of a mattress on the floor, a folding chair, and a card table with one broken leg. The bathroom had a toilet that ran constantly and a sink that only produced cold water. Elena had been here 3 times before, always meeting Adrian in secret, always pretending this was romantic instead of pathetic. Her 2 suitcases sat by the door. One held clothes, mostly scrubs and jeans, nothing fancy because nurses didn't need fancy. The other held everything else that mattered. Photo albums, her mother's recipe book, the acceptance letter from the nursing program she'd worked 3 jobs to afford, her passport, and $3,000 in cash she'd been saving for 7 years. Everything she owned fit into 2 bags. That should have told her something about her life. She stood and walked to the window, careful to stay behind the curtain. The street below was empty except for a stray cat picking through an overturned trash can. Rain turned the pavement into a black mirror reflecting the few working street lights. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it so fast she nearly dropped it. Not Adrian, just a news alert. Breaking. Moretti DeLuca wedding tonight. Mafia royalty unite in century's most lavish ceremony. The phone slipped from her hand, clattered against the floor. No. She snatched it up, hands shaking so badly she had to try 3 times to open the article. The screen filled with photos. Adrienne in a black tuxedo that probably cost more than her car. A woman in white, Isabel DeLuca, daughter of the DeLuca crime family, looking like she'd stepped out of a bridal magazine. The ceremony was being held at the Cathedral of St. Augustine, the same church where Adrian's grandfather and great-grandfather had been married. The same church where Adrian told her 6 months ago that he'd never set foot in again because it represented everything he wanted to escape. Elena read the article twice, certain she was missing something. This had to be a mistake, an old story resurfaced, a rumor. But the timestamp said 1:47 a.m., tonight, right now. She found the live stream link embedded in the article. Her finger hovered over it. Don't, some part of her whispered. Whatever you're about to see, you can't unsee it. She clicked anyway. The feed was professional, multiple cameras, perfect lighting. The cathedral looked like something out of a dream. Thousands of white roses, candles everywhere, guests in designer clothes filling every pew. The camera panned across faces Elena recognized from Adrian's world. Politicians, businessmen, people who smiled in public and ordered murders in private. Then the camera found Adrian at the altar. He looked exactly like himself. Dark hair swept back, the small scar above his left eyebrow from a fight when he was 16. The same sharp jawline she'd traced with her fingers 100 times. He wore a boutonniere of white roses. His expression was unreadable, the face he showed the world when he needed to be the boss, not the man. Elena's stomach turned over. The priest spoke, but she couldn't hear the words over the roaring in her ears. Isabel appeared in the frame, holding her father's arm. She was beautiful in that untouchable way rich girls were beautiful. Perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect smile. She looked like someone who'd never scrubbed blood out of hospital scrubs at 3 a.m., never chosen between groceries and rent, never loved a man who promised he'd choose her, and then didn't. The ceremony proceeded with mechanical precision. Vows were exchanged, not personal ones, just the traditional script. Rings were presented. The priest pronounced them married. Adrian kissed his new wife. Not passionately, but he kissed her. The cathedral erupted in applause. Elena watched herself disappear. She stood there for a long time after the stream cut to the reception coverage, phone still clutched in her hand. Her mind couldn't process what she'd just seen. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. Adrian had promised. 3 days ago, he'd held her face in his hands and sworn on his mother's grave that he was done with that life, that family, those obligations. He'd said, "I choose you," like a man taking a vow. She'd believed him. She'd quit her job, the one good thing in her life, the work that made her feel like she mattered. She'd told her roommate she was moving out. She'd said goodbye to her patients without being able to explain why. Had hugged Mrs. Chen for the last time, knowing she'd never see the old woman again. She'd burned her entire life down because Adrian Moretti said he loved her. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was him. "I'm sorry. Check your account. It's enough to start over. Don't try to contact me. Be safe." Elena stared at the message until the words stopped making sense. Then she opened her banking app with numb fingers. $500,000 had been deposited 2 hours ago. Blood money, guilt money, shut up and go away money. She laughed, and it sounded like something breaking. The rage came then, sudden and clean. It burned through the shock, the grief, the stupid, naive hope that there was still an explanation. Adrian hadn't been delayed, hadn't gotten caught, hadn't been in an accident. He'd made a choice, and the choice wasn't her. Elena grabbed her jacket. She didn't bother with the suitcases. They belonged to a different person, the woman who'd sat here waiting like an idiot. That woman was gone. It took 40 minutes to get to the cathedral in her beat-up Honda. Traffic was light at this hour, and she drove like someone who'd stopped caring about consequences. The reception was being held at the Moretti estate, a sprawling compound 20 minutes outside the city. Elena knew where it was. She'd been there once, smuggled in through a service entrance like contraband while Adrian's father was in Chicago on business. Security at the estate gate was tight, but Elena had spent enough time in Adrian's world to know how it worked. She pulled up to the checkpoint and rolled down her window. The guard was young, maybe 25. He approached with the wary confidence of someone who'd been trained but never tested. "Private event. You need to turn around." "I'm with the catering company," Elena said, voice steady. "My van broke down 2 miles back. My supervisor's going to kill me if I don't get these cake toppers delivered." She held up a small bakery box she'd grabbed from the safe house. It actually contained granola bars, but the guard didn't ask to check. "Nobody told us about a second caterer," he said, but his tone was uncertain. "Nobody told me about a last-minute order either, but here we are. Look, you want to be the guy who ruined the wedding cake situation? On a Moretti wedding? Be my guest. I'll turn around right now." He hesitated. Behind him, through the ornate iron gates, Elena could see the mansion lit up like a casino. Music and laughter drifted down the drive. "Go ahead," he finally said. "But check in with the service coordinator at the kitchen entrance." Elena drove through before he could change his mind. The estate was even more obscene up close. Manicured lawns, fountains, marble statues. The kind of place that whispered old money and old violence. She parked between 2 catering vans and slipped around the side of the house, following the sounds of the party. The reception was held in a massive glass conservatory attached to the mansion's east wing. Through the windows, Elena could see hundreds of guests dancing, drinking, celebrating. A live orchestra played on a raised stage. The tables were draped in ivory silk, centerpieces spilling over with flowers. It looked like something from a movie, except the guests were all killers or married to killers. And the champagne probably cost more than Elena's annual salary. She spotted Adrian immediately. He stood near the far wall, surrounded by men in expensive suits. Even from a distance, she could read his body language. Stiff shoulders, forced smile, the way he held his whiskey glass like he wanted to throw it. Isabel was across the room, laughing with a group of women. They looked like 2 strangers playing house. Elena walked in through the service entrance like she belonged there. Nobody stopped her. Why would they? She was nobody, Just another brown-haired woman in jeans and a jacket, invisible among the waitstaff. She made her way through the crowd, ignoring the looks from guests who noticed she didn't fit. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her feet kept moving. She'd come too far to stop now. Adrian saw her when she was 10 feet away. His face went white. The man he'd been talking to, someone important based on the deference in the body language around them, noticed the change and turned to follow Adrian's gaze. Elena didn't care. She walked right up to them, looked Adrian in the eye, and said, "We need to talk." "Elena," his voice cracked on her name. He glanced at the man beside him, then back at her. "You shouldn't be here." "No kidding." She was vaguely aware that people were starting to stare. "But here I am. Funny how that works." The important man cleared his throat. "Adrian, who is this?" "Nobody," Adrian said quickly. "Someone from... It doesn't matter. Excuse me." He grabbed Elena's arm and steered her toward a side door. His grip was firm but not rough, the same way he'd held her 1,000 times before. It made her want to scream. They ended up in a library, wood paneling, leather chairs, shelves full of books that had probably never been opened. Adrian shut the door and leaned against it, looking at her like she was a ghost. "How did you get in here?" he asked. "Don't," Elena's voice shook. "Don't act like that's what matters. You need to leave. If my father sees you..." "Your father? Your father?" She laughed bitterly. "That's what you're worried about? 3 hours ago, I was supposed to be in a car with you heading to a new life. Instead, I got to watch you marry someone else on live television." Adrian flinched. "I couldn't tell you." "Couldn't or didn't want to?" "Both." He ran a hand through his hair, messing up the perfect styling. "It happened fast. 2 days ago, my father told me if I didn't go through with the marriage, he'd kill you. Not just you, your roommate, your patients, everyone you've ever smiled at. He had photos, Elena. He knew where you worked, where you lived, your route to the hospital. He said he'd make it look like accidents, take his time with it." The words landed like punches. Elena took a step back. "So you just gave up? Didn't fight, didn't warn me, didn't give me a choice? I was protecting you. By lying to me? By letting me sit in that dump waiting for you like an idiot while you put a ring on someone else's finger? What was I supposed to do?" Adrian's voice rose. "Tell you so you could, what, argue with me? Try to convince me it would be fine, yet get yourself killed being brave? You were supposed to trust me," Elena shouted. "You were supposed to treat me like a partner, not a child who couldn't handle the truth. You don't understand what he's capable of." "I'm a trauma nurse, Adrian. I spent 3 years patching up the people your family puts in the ER. I know exactly what he's capable of. The difference is, I never lied to you about it." That shut him up. He stared at her, jaw working like he was chewing on words he couldn't say. Elena felt her anger crystallizing into something colder. "You know what the worst part is? I would have understood. If you'd come to me and said, 'My father's threatening you. I need to do this wedding to buy us time. We'll figure something else out.' I would have been scared, but I would have understood. Instead, you sent me $500,000 and a breakup text. The money was so you could disappear, start over somewhere safe. I don't want your money." The words came out raw. "I wanted you. I loved you. And you loved me enough to save my life, but not enough to give me the truth." Adrian stepped toward her, hands outstretched. "Elena, please. Don't touch me." She backed away. "You made your choice. You chose your family, your obligations, your fear over me. That's fine. That's your right. But don't you dare stand there and tell me it was for my own good, like I should be grateful you broke my heart to save my life." "You're alive," he said quietly. "That's all that matters to me." "Well, it's not all that matters to me." Elena wiped her eyes angrily. She hadn't realized she was crying. "You want to know what I learned tonight? Love isn't just about grand gestures and pretty promises. It's about trust. It's about respecting someone enough to let them stand beside you when things get hard, even if it scares you. You didn't love me enough for that. You loved me like a possession you needed to protect, not a person you chose to build a life with." The door opened behind Adrian. An older man walked in, tall, silver-haired, expensive suit. His eyes were the same dark brown as Adrian's, but colder. This had to be the father. "Adrian," the man said. His voice was pleasant, conversational. Your wife is looking for you, and we seem to have a guest who wasn't on the list. Elena met his gaze and saw her own death reflected there. Not today, maybe. Not tomorrow. But someday, if she stayed in Adrian's orbit, this man would erase her like a mistake. Adrian moved to stand between them. Father, this is... I know who she is. The old man smiled. Miss Martinez, I've heard quite a bit about you. I understand you're an excellent nurse. I'm leaving, Elena said. She looked at Adrian one last time. For what it's worth, I hope you're happy. I hope she's kind to you. I hope you build a good life together and never have to make a choice like this again. She walked past both of them, head high, and didn't look back. Behind her, she heard Adrian's father say, "Let her go. She's not a problem anymore." The words should have hurt, but they didn't. Elena felt nothing but a strange, light emptiness. She made it back to her car, climbed in, and drove away from the estate. She didn't cry again. There was nothing left to cry about. At a gas station 10 miles down the road, she stopped and pulled out her phone. The money was still in her account. Blood money. Guilt money. Enough to disappear money. Elena stared at the number for a long time. Then she opened a new browser window and started searching for cities she'd never been to, jobs she could do with her license, apartments she could afford. She didn't want Adrian's money, but she wasn't stupid enough to refuse it. If he was going to pay for breaking her heart, she'd let him pay for her new life too. By the time the sun came up, she had a plan. A city on the other side of the country, an apartment deposit, a list of hospitals that were hiring. She'd burned her old life down for Adrian, but she'd build the next one for herself. The woman who'd waited in that safe house was gone. The woman driving east as dawn broke was someone new, someone harder maybe, but also freer. Someone who'd learned that the worst thing about betrayal wasn't the pain. It was realizing you'd given someone the power to hurt you that badly in the first place. Elena Martinez had loved a man who didn't deserve it. She wouldn't make that mistake again. 3 weeks later, she was unpacking boxes in a studio apartment in Portland when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Elena. Adrian's voice was rough, like he hadn't slept. I need you to know something. How did you get this number? Doesn't matter. Just listen. My father's tightening his grip on everything. The marriage was just the beginning. He's consolidating power, eliminating anyone he sees as a threat or a liability. I wanted to warn you, don't come back here, ever. Don't contact anyone from your old life. He has people watching. I wasn't planning on it. Good. A pause. Are you okay? Elena looked around her new apartment. It was small and plain, furniture from thrift stores, walls still bare. She had a job starting Monday at a community hospital. She'd made exactly 0 friends. She ate dinner alone every night and woke up alone every morning. She was completely, utterly alone. I'm fine, she said. Elena, don't call again, Adrian. You made your choice. Let me make mine. She hung up before he could respond. The truth was, she wasn't fine. She was hollow, running on anger and stubbornness and the muscle memory of survival. But fine was relative. Fine was better than dead. Fine was a starting point. Elena went back to unpacking. She had a box of kitchen supplies to sort through, shelves to stock, a life to build from nothing. It wasn't the life she'd planned, but it was hers. Nobody could take it away or threaten it or use it as leverage. For now, that was enough. The community hospital in Portland smelled different than the trauma center back home. Less blood, more antiseptic. Quieter hallways. Patients who came in with pneumonia and broken ankles instead of gunshot wounds and stab injuries. Elena's first week, she kept waiting for the chaos that never came. You settling in okay? Dr. Patel asked on her 5th day. He was the attending physician on her floor, mid-50s with kind eyes and a habit of bringing in homemade samosas for the nursing staff. Still getting used to the pace, Elena said, updating a patient chart. It's different. Different good or different bad? She considered the question. Just different. Dr. Patel studied her for a moment, the way doctors looked at patients when they suspected something beneath the surface. You came from a level 1 trauma center, right? That's a big change. Most nurses go the other direction, start at community hospitals and work up to trauma. I needed a change of scenery. Fair enough. He didn't push, which Elena appreciated. Well, if you need anything, my door's always open. Metaphorically speaking. I don't actually have a door, just a desk in the corner of the break room. Elena smiled despite herself. Thanks. The work was easier technically, but somehow more exhausting. She'd spent 3 years in an environment where adrenaline carried you through 12-hour shifts, where every patient was a puzzle you had to solve before they bled out or crashed. Here, she had time to talk to patients, to learn their names and their stories, to care about them as people instead of problems. It should have been better. Instead, it left too much room in her head for thoughts she didn't want. She went home each night to her studio apartment and ate microwaved meals in front of the TV. She tried reading, but couldn't focus. Tried sleeping, but lay awake staring at the ceiling. The $500,000 sat in her account, untouched except for rent and basic expenses. Looking at it made her nauseous. 2 months in, she got a roommate. Not by choice. The girl who lived across the hall got evicted and showed up at Elena's door at 11 p.m. with 2 trash bags of belongings and tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," the girl sobbed. Her name was Maya, early 20s, art student. "I didn't know where else to go. My boyfriend kicked me out, and I don't have money for a deposit anywhere, and I know we've only said hi like twice in the hallway, but you seem nice, and I'm really desperate, and I promise I'll pay you back." "Come in," Elena said, because she remembered being young and broke and scared, even if that version of herself felt like a stranger now. Maya moved into the living room corner with a futon Elena bought off Craigslist. She was messy, loud, cried frequently, and talked too much. She was also the first real human contact Elena had in Portland, and that counted for something. "So what's your deal?" Maya asked one night. They were eating Thai takeout on the floor because Elena still hadn't bought a dining table. "You're like crazy young to be this serious all the time." "I'm 28. "Exactly. You act like you're 40 and going through a divorce." Elena stabbed at her pad thai, just focused on work. "Nobody's that focused on work unless they're running from something." Maya pointed her chopsticks accusingly. "Bad breakup?" "Something like that." "Was he married?" "Eventually." Maya's eyes widened. "Oh, damn, that's rough. Did you know?" "Not until it was too late." Elena set down her food, appetite gone. "Can we talk about something else?" Sure, sorry." Maya was quiet for approximately 30 seconds. "But, do you want to key his car? I'm really good at revenge planning. Last boyfriend, I posted all his weird fetish stuff in the group chat with his college friends. He deserved it," she added defensively when Elena raised an eyebrow. "I don't think keying his car would work." "Why not? Too mature for petty revenge?" "More like he has 12 cars and people who'd kill me for scratching them." Maya stared at her. "Are you in witness protection or something?" "Or something. That's so badass. You're like a mysterious, tragic heroine. I'm going to paint you." "Please don't." But Amaya did anyway, and the painting was actually good. Elena, sitting by the window, face half in shadow, looking at something outside the frame. Maya hung it in the apartment without asking, and Elena pretended to be annoyed but secretly didn't mind. It was nice, having proof that someone saw her. Work continued. Elena learned the rhythms of the hospital, made small talk with coworkers, went to staff meetings where people argued about parking spaces instead of trauma protocols. She picked up extra shifts because the alternative was going home to think, and thinking led nowhere good. Then one Tuesday in October, everything shifted. Elena was restocking supplies in an exam room when Dr. Patel stuck his head in. "Hey, got a patient in 3 who specifically asked for you. Said you treated her at your last hospital?" Elena's stomach dropped. "What's her name?" "Chen, elderly woman, respiratory infection. Seems sweet." "Mrs. Chen." Elena's hands went numb. She'd said goodbye to Mrs. Chen 3 months ago, hugged her, promised to visit even though she knew she never would. Mrs. Chen had chronic heart failure and came to the ER every few weeks when her fluid built up. Elena had spent hours with her over 2 years, learned about her dead husband and her son in California who never called and her garden that she missed tending. "You okay?" Dr. Patel asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine. I'll go check on her." Mrs. Chen was in the bed, oxygen cannula in her nose, looking smaller and frailer than Elena remembered. Her face lit up when Elena walked in. "There you are. I knew it was you. When my neighbor said she saw a nurse at the grocery store who looked just like my Elena, I had to come see for myself." Elena forced a smile. "Mrs. Chen, what are you doing in Portland?" "My son finally answered one of my letters, invited me to stay with him for a while. Can you believe it?" Mrs. Chen's hands fluttered happily. "Of course, I get here and catch pneumonia within a week. That's just my luck. But what about you? When did you leave? Nobody at the hospital would tell me where you went. I thought maybe something bad happened." "Just needed a change," Elena said, checking the chart to avoid eye contact. "How's your breathing? Any chest pain?" "Forget my breathing. Tell me what happened. You loved that job. And what about that nice young man you were seeing, the one who sent you flowers?" Elena's chest tightened. Adrian had sent flowers exactly once to the hospital, and it had caused such a stir that he never did it again. Mrs. Chen had seen them at the nurse's station and spent 20 minutes interrogating Elena about her mystery boyfriend. "That didn't work out," Elena said quietly. "Oh, honey," Mrs. Chen reached for her hand. "Was he the reason you left?" "It's complicated." "It always is with men." Mrs. Chen squeezed her fingers. "You know what my Henry used to say? He said the measure of a man isn't what he promises. It's what he does when keeping those promises gets hard. Sounds like your young man failed that test." Elena's throat closed up. She managed a nod. "Well, his loss. You're a wonderful girl. You'll find someone better." "Maybe," Elena said, not believing it. "Let's focus on getting you healthy, okay? I'm going to increase your oxygen and start you on antibiotics. You'll feel better in a few days." She escaped as soon as professionally possible, made it to the supply closet, and stood there breathing hard. The walls felt too close. Mrs. Chen's presence in Portland was a coincidence. Had to be. Adrian's father couldn't have known, but the paranoia crept in anyway, whispering that there were no coincidences, not in that world. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at it for 3 rings before answering. "Elena." Not Adrian this time. A woman's voice, vaguely familiar. "This is Isabel, Adrian's wife. Don't hang up." Elena hung up. The phone rang again immediately. She answered without thinking. "How did you get this number?" "Same way Adrian got it, I assume. Look, I know this is weird, but I need to talk to you. It's important." "We have nothing to talk about." "Yes, we do. It's about Adrian and his father. Please." 5 minutes. Something in Isabel's voice made Elena hesitate. Fear, maybe, or desperation. "What about them?" "Not over the phone. Can you meet me? There's a coffee shop on 5th and Morrison, tomorrow at noon." "Why would I do that?" "Because you're the only person who might actually care that Adrian's in trouble." Isabel's voice cracked. "Please, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious." The line went dead. Elena stood in the supply closet, phone pressed to her ear, mind racing. This was stupid, dangerous. She should block the number, forget it happened, keep her head down and her life quiet. Adrian's problems weren't her problems anymore. But the next day at noon, she walked into the coffee shop on 5th and Morrison. Isabel sat at a corner table, wearing jeans and a sweater, no makeup, hair in a ponytail. She looked nothing like the magazine perfect bride from the wedding. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. "You came," Isabel said, relief evident. "Thank you." Elena sat down but didn't take off her jacket. "You have 5 minutes." "Right. Okay." Isabel wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "I know you probably hate me. I don't hate you. I don't know you." "Fair. But you know Adrian, and you know his father, and you need to understand that the marriage it wasn't real. I mean, legally it's real, but it's not a relationship. We barely talk. We sleep in separate rooms. He goes through the motions for appearances, but he's miserable." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because his father is planning something. I don't know exactly what, but I hear things. Conversations that stop when I walk in rooms. Phone calls in the middle of the night. 2 weeks ago, Victor, Adrian's father, he asked me about you." Elena's blood went cold. "What did he ask?" "If Adrian ever mentioned you, if I knew where you were." I said no to both, which is true. "Adrian doesn't talk to me about anything real, but Victor's having you followed." "How do you know that?" Because I saw the surveillance photos on his desk. You at the hospital, at your apartment, getting groceries. He knows where you are, Elena. The coffee shop tilted sideways. Elena gripped the table edge. Why would he be following me? I'm no threat to him. I think he's waiting to see if Adrian tries to contact you. And if he does... Isabel didn't finish the sentence. Adrian called me once, 2 months ago. We talked for maybe 3 minutes. I told him not to call again. Did he listen? Yes. Isabel relaxed slightly. Good. That's good. Keep it that way. Because Victor's getting paranoid. The other families are pushing back against some of his deals. There's rumors about federal investigations. And he's eliminating anyone he sees as a liability. 3 people have disappeared in the last month. Associates who've worked with him for years. Again, why are you telling me this? Because despite everything, Adrian still loves you. He doesn't say it, but I can tell. And I think you still care about him, or you wouldn't be here. You're wrong. Am I? Isabel met her eyes. Look, I don't need him to love me back. This marriage is a business arrangement for both our families. But I don't want him dead, and I definitely don't want you dead because his father decides you're a loose end. So I'm warning you, stay away. Don't answer if he calls. Don't come back. Pretend he never existed. Elena stood up. Was that your 5 minutes? Elena, please. I'm not coming back. I built a life here. He made his choices. I made mine. Tell Adrian to do the same. She left before Isabel could respond, walked 3 blocks before the shaking started. She found a bench and sat down, head between her knees, breathing through the panic. Victor Moretti was having her followed. He had photos. He knew where she worked, where she lived. Maya was in danger. Dr. Patel, Mrs. Chen. Everyone she'd spoken to since arriving in Portland. Her phone rang. She almost threw it in the trash, but the caller ID said, St. Vincent's Hospital. Work. Elena, it's Dr. Patel. We need you to come in. There's been an incident with Mrs. Chen. The panic sharpened into focus. What kind of incident? She collapsed in her room. We're running tests, but it looks like someone tampered with her IV. The police are here. Elena was already running. She made it to the hospital in 8 minutes, took the stairs because the elevator was too slow. Dr. Patel met her outside Mrs. Chen's room. Is she okay? Elena gasped. Stable, we caught it fast, but Elena, someone injected something into her IV line, an overdose of sedatives. If the monitor hadn't alarmed when her heart rate dropped, he shook his head. Do you know anyone who'd want to hurt her? Elena's mind raced. Victor wouldn't go after Mrs. Chen. She was nobody. No connection to Elena beyond patient care, unless someone was sending a message. Unless this was a warning about what happened to people in Elena's orbit. No, she lied. I don't know anyone. The police questioned her for an hour. She gave them nothing useful because the truth that she used to date a mafia boss whose father might be staging accidents to scare her sounded insane. They finally let her go with instructions to call if she thought of anything. Mrs. Chen was sleeping when Elena checked on her, son sitting by her bedside. He looked up with red eyes. The nurse said you found her. Thank you. If you hadn't been working today, I'm glad I was here, Elena said. Her voice sounded far away. She finished her shift on autopilot, went home, and found Maya painting in the living room with headphones on. Safe, alive, unaware that knowing Elena might get her killed. Elena packed a bag. Going somewhere? Maya pulled out her headphones. Family emergency. I'll be gone a few days. Want me to come? I'm great at family emergencies. I can be supportive or distracting, whatever you need. No, stay here. Don't open the door for anyone you don't know. Maya frowned. Is everything okay? You're scaring me a little. Everything's fine. I'm just being paranoid. Elena grabbed her keys. I'll call you. She drove south instead of east this time, no destination in mind, just away. She made it 2 hours before pulling into a rest stop and finally letting herself fall apart. The crying came hard and angry, the kind that left her gasping and hollow. She'd been naive to think geography would save her. You didn't walk away from people like Victor Moretti. You ran, and they followed, and eventually they caught up. Mrs. Chen had almost died because Elena had held her hand and made her laugh during treatments. How many other people would he hurt to make his point? Her phone rang. Adrian's number this time, not unknown. She answered. Your father tried to kill my patient today. Silence. Then, what? Mrs. Chen. Someone tampered with her IV. She could have died. Elena, I swear I didn't know. I don't care what you know. I told you I was done. I moved across the country. I didn't contact you. I did everything right, and he's still coming after people I care about. Where are you? Adrian's voice was sharp with fear. Are you somewhere safe? There is no safe. Don't you get that? Your father has eyes everywhere. He's been following me for months. He knows where I work, where I live, who I talk to. So unless you can make him stop, there's no point to this conversation. I can't control him. Then what good are you? The words came out cruel. Elena didn't care. You married that girl. You stayed in that family. You chose to be your father's son. So own it. Stop calling me like you're some tragic hero who gave me up for my own good. You gave me up because it was easier than fighting. That's not fair. Life's not fair, Adrian. I learned that when I watched you kiss your wife on TV. She hung up and turned off her phone. The rest stop had a vending machine and bathrooms that smelled like industrial cleaner. Elena bought a coffee that tasted like burnt plastic and sat in her car watching trucks come and go. She couldn't go back to Portland. She couldn't run forever. She couldn't drag Maya or Dr. Patel or anyone else into this nightmare, which left exactly one option. She turned her phone back on and dialed the number Isabel had called from. Hello? It's Elena. I need you to get me a meeting with Victor. Isabel sucked in a breath. Are you insane? He'll kill you. Maybe, but I need to make it clear that I'm not a threat, and I can't do that by hiding. Can you arrange it or not? Elena, listen to me. Can you arrange it? A long pause. Yes, but you need to understand what you're walking into. Victor doesn't meet with people unless he's already decided whether they live or die. Then I guess I better be convincing. The meeting was set for 2 days later, back in the city Elena had fled from. She drove through the night, arrived at dawn, and checked into a motel that rented by the hour. She showered, changed into the one professional outfit she'd packed, and stared at herself in the mirror. The woman looking back was tired, angry, and scared, but she was also done running. At 10 a.m., a car picked her up. Not the driver from Adrian's world. This was someone new, stone-faced and silent. They drove to a restaurant downtown, one of those places where lunch cost more than Elena used to make in a week. Victor was already seated at a corner table, reading a newspaper like they were meeting for brunch. Miss Martinez, he said as she approached, please sit. Have you eaten? I'm not here to eat. Suit yourself. He folded the newspaper and studied her. My daughter-in-law tells me you wanted to speak with me. I'm curious what you think we have to discuss. Elena sat down because standing felt like surrender. I want you to leave me alone. Stop following me. Stop threatening people in my life. I'm not part of your world anymore. You were never part of my world, Victor said mildly. You were a mistake my son made, an indulgence I tolerated because he was young and stupid. But then you became a problem. I didn't do anything. You existed. That was enough. He signaled the waiter, ordered an espresso. Adrian thinks he loves you. As long as he believes that, you're a weakness someone can exploit. Do you understand? You're not a person to me. You're a liability. Then kill me and get it over with. Victor smiled. Tempting, but killing you makes you a martyr. Adrian would never forgive me, which makes him harder to control. No, it's better if you disappear voluntarily. Move overseas, change your name, find a nice Australian man and settle down in Sydney. And if I don't, then people around you will continue to have unfortunate accidents until you do. The old woman was just a warning. Next time, I'll choose someone younger. That roommate of yours seems sweet. Art student, correct? Terrible boyfriend recently? Elena's hands clenched under the table. You son of a... Careful. Victor's voice didn't change, but the temperature in the restaurant dropped 10 degrees. You're alive right now because you amuse me. Don't test my patience. What do you want from me? I want you gone. Truly, completely gone. No forwarding address, no contact with my son, no tearful reunions in 5 years when you think I've forgotten. Just gone. And if I agree, then the people you care about stay safe. You get to keep the money Adrian gave you. Consider it a settlement, and everyone moves on with their lives. Elena stared at him. This was what power looked like, she realized. Not the guns or the violence. That was just the tools. Real power was sitting across from someone and calmly explaining how you owned their choices. How do I know you'll keep your word? She asked. You don't, but consider your alternatives. The waiter brought the espresso. Victor added sugar, stirred slowly. Elena watched him and understood that she'd already lost this conversation before it started. Maybe she'd lost it the day she met Adrian in that ER, when he looked at her with those dark eyes, and she thought she saw something worth saving. I'll leave, she said, but I need time to arrange things. A month. 2 weeks. 3. Victor considered. 3 weeks. But Miss Martinez, if I hear that you've contacted my son, if you send so much as a postcard, the deal is off. Are we clear? Crystal. Good. He stood, dropped cash on the table. It's been a pleasure. I hope I never see you again. He walked out, leaving Elena sitting alone in a restaurant where she couldn't afford the napkins. She waited until her hand stopped shaking, then called Isabel. How did it go? Isabel asked. I'm alive. That's something. What did he say? That I need to disappear for real this time. Overseas, new identity. I'm sorry, Isabel said quietly. I know that's not what you wanted to hear. It's what I expected. Elena stood up, left the restaurant. Outside, the city looked exactly like it had 3 months ago. Indifferent, busy, full of people living lives that didn't include her. Can you do me a favor? What? Tell Adrian I'm leaving. Tell him it was my choice, not his father's. And tell him... She paused. Tell him I hope he finds a way to be happy. Elena, that's all. Thanks for trying to help. She hung up and started walking. She had 3 weeks to erase her life, again. This time, she'd do it right. 3 weeks turned out to be longer than Elena needed and shorter than she wanted. She spent the first week tying up loose ends in Portland, quitting her job with a vague excuse about a family situation overseas, breaking her lease, selling what little furniture she'd accumulated. Dr. Patel looked disappointed, but not surprised when she gave notice. You never really settled in, did you? He said, signing off on her resignation paperwork. I tried. Sometimes trying isn't enough. I hope wherever you're going treats you better. She wanted to tell him he'd been kind, that the samosas and the metaphorical open door had meant something. Instead, she just nodded and walked away before the guilt could choke her. Maya was harder. The girl came home from class to find Elena packing boxes, and her face crumpled like paper. You're leaving? Just like that? I have to. Family stuff. That's what you said last time, and you came back in 2 days looking like someone died. What's really going on? Maya sat on the futon, arms crossed. And don't lie to me. I'm annoying, but I'm not stupid. Elena kept folding clothes, unable to meet her eyes. The less you know, the safer you are. That's such a cop-out answer. What, are you in the mob or something? The laugh that escaped Elena's throat sounded broken. No, but someone I used to know is, and his family doesn't like loose ends. Maya went very still. You're serious. Unfortunately. So you're just running, leaving everything behind because some scary people said so? It's not that simple. It never is. Maya stood up, started helping pack without being asked. My mom ran from my dad when I was 6. Took us to 3 different states in 2 years. New schools, new names, new everything. Know what I learned? Running doesn't fix anything. It just means you're scared in a different location. Your mom was brave for getting you out. My mom was smart. But she was also running from one man, not a whole crime family. I get that your situation is different. Maya taped up a box with more force than necessary. I just hate that you're going through this alone. I'm used to alone. That doesn't mean it's good. They finished packing in silence. Elena had accumulated more than she realized. Books, kitchen supplies, the painting Maya had made. She left most of it behind, taking only what fit in 2 suitcases. Full circle, she thought bitterly, right back where she started. Where are you going? Maya asked as Elena loaded her car. Better if you don't know. Will you at least tell me if you're okay, once you're settled? Elena wanted to say yes, wanted to promise they'd stay in touch, that this wasn't goodbye forever. But Victor's warning echoed in her head. No contact, No traces. Just gone. I'll try, she said, which was the kindest lie she could manage. Maya hugged her hard enough to crack ribs. You're a terrible liar, you know that? But I get it. Just be safe, okay? And if you ever need help, any kind of help, you find a way to reach me. I don't care how long it's been. Elena held on longer than she should have, memorizing the feeling of someone caring whether she lived or died. Then she got in her car and drove away without looking back, because looking back would break her. The second week was spent in research. Elena parked herself in a library in a town she'd never heard of and learned how to disappear properly. Cash transactions only. Avoid cameras. Never use real names. She found forums where people discussed vanishing, some running from debt, others from abusive exes, a few who just wanted to opt out of society. She took notes like she was studying for an exam. New Zealand seemed like a good option. English-speaking, far away, decent healthcare system. She could get a work visa with her nursing credentials, find a job in some small town where nobody asked questions about American accents. She'd be Elena Martinez still, on paper, because getting a fake identity was harder and more expensive than movies suggested. But she'd be a different Elena. One without history, without connections, without the weight of Adrian Moretti's choices dragging her down. The plan was solid, practical. The kind of thing the old Elena would have been proud of. The new Elena felt nothing but numb acceptance. On day 10, her phone rang. She'd gotten a new number after meeting with Victor, given it to exactly 3 people: the hospital HR department, Maya, and the travel agent helping with visa paperwork. The caller ID said unknown. She answered against her better judgment. Hello? It's me. Adrian's voice was rough, urgent. Don't hang up. How did you get this number? Doesn't matter, Elena. You need to listen. No, you need to listen. Your father and I made a deal. I disappear. Everyone stays safe. I'm keeping my end. Don't screw this up by calling me. The deal's off. My father's dead. The words didn't process. Elena pulled over to the side of the road, hands suddenly unsteady. What? He was killed 2 days ago. Car bomb. The DeLuca family is claiming responsibility, saying he authorized a hit on one of their guys. It's a mess. Everyone's scrambling for position. The whole structure is falling apart. Why are you telling me this? Because you're free. The threat's gone. You don't have to run anymore. Elena stared at the dashboard, trying to absorb the information. Victor Moretti was dead. The man who'd sat across from her in that restaurant, who'd calmly threatened everyone she loved, who'd held enough power to make her erase her own existence, gone, just like that. Elena? Are you there? I'm here. I don't know what you want me to say. Say you'll come back. We can start over. No family pressure, no threats, just us, the way it should have been. The laugh burst out of her, sharp and humorless. Are you out of your mind? I know I screwed up. You married someone else. You let your father terrorize me, and now he's dead, so you think we just pick up where we left off? Like none of it happened? I never stopped loving you. Love isn't enough. The words echoed in the car. Elena took a breath, forced herself to speak calmly. You made choices, Adrian. You chose your family, your obligations, your fear over me. That doesn't just disappear because your father's gone. I was protecting you. No, you were protecting yourself from having to choose. And you know what? I don't even blame you anymore. I understand why you did it, but understanding doesn't mean I can forget. It doesn't mean I trust you, and it definitely doesn't mean I'm coming back. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, what are you saying? I'm saying I'm done. With you, with your world, with all of it. Your father dying doesn't change what you did. It just means I get to leave on my own terms instead of his. Elena, please, I hope you figure out your life. I hope you and Isabel find a way to make your marriage work, or at least not make each other miserable. I hope you get out of the business if that's what you really want. But I can't be part of any of it. I need you. The words landed soft and desperate. Once, they would have broken her. Once, she would have caved, driven back, let herself believe that love could overcome everything. But Elena had learned the hard way that need wasn't the same as respect, that wanting someone wasn't the same as choosing them when it mattered. You need therapy, she said, and maybe a good lawyer. But you don't need me. You just think you do because I'm the one who got away. That's not fair. You're right. It's not. Nothing about this is fair, but it's true. She hung up before he could respond, then sat in her parked car watching traffic pass. Victor Moretti was dead. The threat was gone. She could go back to Portland, get her job back, rebuild the life she'd started to create. She could stay in America, call Maya, apologize to Dr. Patel, check on Mrs. Chen. Or she could keep going. Leave anyway, not because someone was forcing her, but because she chose to. Build something new somewhere nobody knew her name or her history. Start completely fresh. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like permission. Elena pulled back onto the road and kept driving west. The third week was spent in motion. She flew to Los Angeles, then to Auckland, then to Wellington. New Zealand was green and rainy and so far from everything that her past felt like something that had happened to someone else. She rented a room in a hostel while she looked for apartments, applied for nursing positions in 3 different cities, walked until her feet hurt. Nobody knew her here. Nobody cared that she'd been in love with the wrong man or that she'd watched her future implode on live television. She was just another foreigner starting over, which was freeing and lonely in equal measure. She found a job at a hospital in Christchurch, a 1-bedroom apartment near the Botanical Gardens, a cafe that made decent coffee. She bought furniture secondhand, hung Maya's painting on the wall, set up her life like she was arranging puzzle pieces. It looked right from a distance. Up close, the gaps were obvious. Her phone rang constantly the first few days. Adrian's number, unknown numbers, even Isabel once. Elena ignored them all. Eventually they stopped. The silence was what she'd wanted. It still felt like losing. 2 weeks into her new life, she was unpacking the last box when she found it. A letter, tucked between 2 books. Her name on the envelope in Adrian's handwriting. Elena stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside was a single page, dated 3 days after the wedding. Elena, I know I don't have the right to explain, and I know you won't believe me, but I need to try. My father gave me a choice the day before the wedding. Marry Isabel, or watch everyone you love die. He had files on you, photos, addresses. He knew about Mrs. Chen, about your roommate Sarah from nursing school, about your cousin in Texas you haven't seen in 5 years. He said he'd make it look like accidents, take his time, make sure I knew it was because of my choices. I thought about fighting. I thought about warning you, running with you, calling his bluff. But I've seen what he does to people who cross him, and I couldn't risk it. I couldn't risk you. So I chose the coward's way out. I lied and pretended everything was fine until it was too late for you to argue. You were right to be angry. You were right to walk away. I destroyed us trying to save you, and I'm not even sure you needed saving. You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for. Stronger than me, definitely. I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. But I needed you to know that loving you was the only real thing I've ever done. Everything else, the family, the business, the marriage, it's all performance. You were real. We were real. And I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to fight for it. Be happy, Elena. Build a good life. Forget I existed if that's what it takes. Just be happy. Always, Adrian. Elena read it twice, then folded it back into the envelope. She should burn it, throw it away, pretend she never found it. Instead, she put it in a drawer and closed it, not ready to decide what it meant or whether it changed anything. The next morning, she started her first shift at Christchurch Hospital. The work was familiar: vital signs, medications, charting, the endless rhythm of healthcare. Her coworkers were friendly, patients grateful, everything professional and pleasant. She ate lunch alone in the cafeteria, went home to her empty apartment, made dinner for one. This was freedom, she told herself. This was what starting over looked like. It was supposed to feel better than this. 3 months passed. Elena settled into routines: work, grocery shopping, walks through the botanical gardens. She made exactly one friend, another nurse named Sarah, who talked too much and laughed too loud and reminded her painfully of Maya. She ignored the occasional pang of homesickness, the moments when she wanted to call someone who knew her history and couldn't because she'd burned all those bridges. Then one night, Sarah invited her to a work happy hour. "Come on," Sarah pleaded. "You've been here 3 months and you've never come out with us. People are starting to think you're a serial killer or something." "I'm just not social." "Nobody's that not social. 1 drink, 2 hours. I'll run interference if anyone gets weird." Elena agreed because refusing seemed sadder than accepting. The bar was loud and crowded, full of hospital staff decompressing with overpriced wine and terrible music. Elena nursed a beer and tried to look engaged while conversation swirled around her. "You're Elena, right? The new nurse on 4th floor?" A man approached, tall, sandy hair, easy smile. "I'm James. I work in radiology." "Nice to meet you. How are you liking New Zealand? Sarah said you're from the States?" "It's nice. Different, but nice." "What brought you here? Work? Family?" The question was casual, polite. Elena had prepared answers for this. Needed a change of scenery, wanted to try living abroad. "That's brave. I've never left the South Island." James laughed. "I'm boring. You, though, you must have stories. What made you decide to just pack up and move halfway around the world?" Elena looked at him. He seemed nice, normal, the kind of person who'd never had to flee a crime family or watch the man he loved marry someone else. The kind of person who thought brave meant trying new things, not surviving them. "Long story," she said. "Not very interesting." "I doubt that." James flagged the bartender, ordered another round. "Come on, give me something. What did you do for fun back home?" The honest answer was work too much and fall in love with dangerous men. Elena searched for something safer. "I liked hiking and cooking when I had time. Nothing exciting." "Hiking's good. We should go sometime. I know some great trails around here." It took Elena a moment to realize he was asking her out. Not directly, but the implication was clear. She should say yes. James was attractive, employed, normal. This was what moving on looked like. Meeting someone new, building something uncomplicated, letting go of the past. "Maybe," she heard herself say. "I'll have to check my schedule." "Sure, yeah, no pressure." James smiled again, passed her his number on a cocktail napkin. "Text me when you're free." Elena pocketed the napkin and excused herself to the bathroom. She stared at her reflection in the mirror. Same face, different continent, still running. The woman looking back was tired of running, but didn't know how to stop. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Elena's stomach dropped. She'd been in New Zealand for 3 months without contact. The silence had felt like proof she'd actually escaped. She answered. "Hello? Elena Martinez?" A woman's voice, professional, American accent. "My name is Agent Sarah Mitchell with the FBI. I need to speak with you regarding the Moretti family and their criminal operations." Elena's grip on the phone tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about. Ms. Martinez, I know you had a relationship with Adrian Moretti. I know his father threatened you, and I know you left the country shortly before Victor Moretti was killed. I'm not calling to accuse you of anything. I'm calling because I think you might be in danger. Victor's dead. The threat's gone. Victor's death created a power vacuum. Multiple families are fighting for control, and witnesses are being eliminated. Anyone who knew Victor's business operations is a target." Agent Mitchell paused. "We have reason to believe someone put a contract out on you." The bathroom spun. Elena sat down on the floor, back against the wall. "Why? I don't know anything. I was nothing to them." "You were involved with Adrian. That makes you a liability to whoever doesn't want him in power. And Miss Martinez, I have to ask, when was the last time you spoke to him?" Elena thought about the phone calls she'd ignored, the letters she'd hidden in her drawer. 3 months ago. I told him to leave me alone. Has he tried to contact you since?" "I don't know. I stopped answering unknown numbers." "Good. Keep doing that. And Ms. Martinez, I need you to consider coming back to the States. We can offer protection, relocation assistance through witness protection if necessary, but we need your cooperation in exchange." "Cooperation with what?" "There's a federal investigation into the Moretti family's operations. We're building a RICO case, but we need witnesses willing to testify about their relationship with the organization. I understand if you're hesitant, but your testimony could help us dismantle." "No!" The word came out hard. "I'm not testifying. I'm not coming back. I don't know anything useful, and I'm not getting dragged back into that world." "Ms. Martinez, if there's a contract on you, then I'll deal with it. But I'm not helping you put Adrian in prison. Find someone else." Elena hung up and sat on the bathroom floor, breathing hard. A contract. Someone wanted her dead. Even halfway around the world, Victor's shadow still reached her. She thought about Adrian, wondered if he knew, wondered if he'd tried to warn her, wondered if he'd put the contract out himself to tie up loose ends now that he was presumably running the family. No. She dismissed the thought immediately. Whatever Adrian was, he wasn't that. He'd married someone he didn't love to keep her safe. He wouldn't turn around and have her killed, unless he'd changed, unless power had changed him the way it changed everyone who touched it. Elena pulled herself up, washed her face, went back to the bar. James was still there talking to Sarah, glancing toward the bathroom every few seconds. She walked over and handed him the napkin with his number. "I can't do this," she said. "I'm sorry. You seem nice, but I can't." "Oh, okay." He looked confused, but not offended. "If it's the timing or it's everything, I'm a mess, and you don't need that. Neither of us does." She left before he could respond, walked back to her apartment in the rain. The letter was still in the drawer where she'd left it. Elena pulled it out, read it again. Always Adrian. Like a promise. Like a curse. She thought about burning it. Instead, she called the number Agent Mitchell had called from. "Agent Mitchell? It's Elena Martinez. If I testify, if I cooperate with your investigation, can you guarantee my safety? We can offer witness protection, new identity, relocation. Not good enough. The Moretti family has resources. If they want me dead, a new name won't stop them. Miss Martinez, it's the best we can offer." Elena closed her eyes. "Then I'm staying in New Zealand, but I'll tell you what I know about Victor's operations, everything I saw and heard. I'll give you dates, names, whatever helps your case. Just don't ask me to come back, and don't tell anyone where I am. That's not standard protocol. It's my only offer." Agent Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. "Okay, I'll arrange a secure line for the interview, but Ms. Martinez, understand that if you testify remotely, your statement might not carry the same weight in court. A defense attorney will argue you're not credible if you're not willing to face the defendant. Let them argue. I'm done being brave for other people." They scheduled the interview for the following week. Elena spent the intervening days remembering dinners where Adrian's father discussed shipments and payments like they were discussing the weather, phone calls she'd overheard, names of men who came and went from the estate. She hadn't paid attention at the time, too focused on Adrian to care about the business. But she'd absorbed more than she realized. The interview lasted 6 hours. Agent Mitchell was thorough, professional, skeptical, in a way that made Elena feel like she was on trial herself. But she answered every question honestly, gave them everything she had. It wasn't much. She'd never been inside the operation, never seen account books or witnessed actual crimes. But it was something. "This is helpful," Agent Mitchell said at the end. "Not enough to build a case on its own, but corroboration for what we already have. Thank you for your cooperation. Am I done?" "For now. We may need follow-up interviews as the investigation progresses. And Ms. Martinez, be careful. The fact that you've cooperated with us puts you at even greater risk if anyone finds out. Nobody will find out unless you tell them. We won't, but leaks happen. Watch your back." Elena hung up and felt nothing but exhaustion. She'd done the right thing, probably. Helped put away people who hurt others. It felt hollow. That night, she dreamed about the safe house, the rain, the TV broadcast, the moment her future shattered. But in the dream, when Adrian kissed his bride, he looked directly at the camera, directly at Elena, and his expression wasn't blank. It was anguished. Sorry. Trapped. She woke up angry at herself for still caring, for still making excuses, for reading that letter too many times to count. Adrian had made his choices. She'd made hers. The investigation would play out, or it wouldn't. People would go to prison, or they wouldn't. None of it involved her anymore. She just had to keep telling herself that until it felt true. The weeks following the FBI interview blurred together in a haze of work and deliberate numbness. Elena picked up extra shifts, volunteered for the worst rotations, anything to keep her mind occupied. Sarah stopped inviting her to happy hours after the third polite refusal, and Elena pretended not to notice the worried looks from her coworkers. Being alone was safer, easier, less complicated than explaining why she flinched at unexpected phone calls or checked over her shoulder in parking lots. The contract, if it was real, if Agent Mitchell wasn't exaggerating, hung over her like weather she couldn't predict. Some days Elena forgot about it entirely, lost in the rhythm of vitals and medications and charting. Other days, she saw threats everywhere. The man who watched her too long in the grocery store. The car that seemed to follow her home. The knock on her door that turned out to be a neighbor asking to borrow sugar. Paranoia was exhausting, so was pretending everything was fine. On a Tuesday in late autumn, Elena came home to find her apartment door unlocked. She stood in the hallway for a full minute, keys in hand, heart hammering. She'd locked it this morning. She always locked it. Years of living in bad neighborhoods had made that instinct automatic. She should call the police, should walk away, should do literally anything except what she did, which was push the door open and step inside. The apartment looked untouched, nothing obviously missing or disturbed, but something felt wrong, a displacement of air, a sense that someone had been in her space. Elena moved through the room slowly, checking closets and behind doors like she was clearing a crime scene. In her bedroom, she found it. Adrian's letter, the one she'd hidden in her nightstand drawer, now sitting on her pillow. Unfolded. Like someone wanted her to know they'd read it. Elena's hands went cold. She grabbed her phone, started to dial 911, then stopped. What would she tell them? Someone broke in but didn't steal anything, just moved a letter? That she was being targeted by American organized crime for testifying to the FBI? They'd think she was paranoid or crazy or both. She called Agent Mitchell instead. "Ms. Martinez, is everything all right?" "Someone broke into my apartment. They didn't take anything, just left a message. I think they know I talked to you." "Are you safe right now? Is anyone there?" "No, I'm alone. But Agent Mitchell, how would they know? You said the interview was secure." "It was. I don't know how—" Agent Mitchell's voice tightened. "Stay where you are. I'm going to contact local authorities. Get someone to your location." "And then what? They put a patrol car outside for a few days? That's not going to stop whoever this is." "We can expedite witness protection. I'm already in witness protection. I moved to New Zealand." Elena's voice cracked. "I left everything. I did what you asked, and they still found me." "Miss Martinez, I need you to breathe. Can you go somewhere public, a cafe, the hospital, anywhere with people?" Elena looked at the letter on her pillow. Adrian's handwriting stark against the white fabric. Always Adrian. Someone had read those words, had stood in her bedroom holding proof of what they'd been to each other. The violation made her skin crawl. "I have a better idea," she said. "I'm going to call Adrian." "That's not advisable. Someone from his world did this. Either he knows about it or he doesn't, but I'm going to find out which." Elena hung up before Agent Mitchell could argue. She stared at her phone for a long moment before pulling up Adrian's number. It had been 4 months since they'd spoken. 4 months since she'd told him to leave her alone. Her finger hovered over the call button. Then she pressed it. He answered on the first ring. "Elena, someone broke into my apartment." No preamble, no greeting. "They moved your letter. The one you left in my things before I flew to New Zealand. Whoever it was, they wanted me to know they'd been here." Silence. Then, "Are you hurt?" "No, but Adrian, if you put a contract out on me, if this is you cleaning up loose ends, I would never." His voice turned sharp. "Where are you right now?" "My apartment." "Get out. Right now. Go somewhere public and stay there until I call you back." "Why? What's happening?" "Elena, please, just trust me on this." She shouldn't. Trust was what had gotten her into this mess in the first place. But the fear in his voice was real, and despite everything, she believed he wasn't the one who'd sent someone to her home. "Fine, but you have 30 minutes, then I'm calling the police." Elena grabbed her bag and left. Didn't bother locking the door behind her. What was the point? They'd already been inside. She drove to a 24-hour diner, ordered coffee she didn't drink, and waited. The other patrons were mostly night shift workers and insomniacs, people too wrapped up in their own exhaustion to notice her shaking hands. Adrian called back in 23 minutes. "It's Carlo De Luca," he said without preamble. "Victor's death started a war. The De Luca family thinks they can take over our territory, and they're eliminating anyone connected to the old guard. I'm on the list. Isabel's on the list. You're on the list because Carlo thinks you know things about my father's operations. I told the FBI everything I know, which is basically nothing." "You talked to the FBI?" Adrian's voice went deadly quiet. "An agent called me. Said there was a contract out, offered protection in exchange for cooperation. I gave them what little I remembered from dinners and meetings, background stuff. Nothing that would... She stopped. Oh no. Adrian, if they find out I talked, they already know. That's why Carlo moved now. He has someone inside the investigation feeding him information. Adrian exhaled slowly. Elena, I'm so sorry. I should have warned you this would happen. I hoped you'd be far enough away that they wouldn't bother. Well, they bothered. Elena's fear was crystallizing into anger. So what now? I run again? Change my name? Spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder? No, now I fix this. How see? By ending the war. Carlo wants power. I'll give him the territory he's after. I'll negotiate a truce that includes leaving you alone. Why would he agree to that? Because I'll offer him something better than revenge, money, connections, my father's offshore accounts. Adrian's voice was cold now, all business. And because if he doesn't agree, I'll make sure he doesn't live long enough to regret it. Elena gripped the phone tighter. You can't start a war over me. I'm not starting anything. I'm ending it. This is my fault. I brought you into this world. I should have protected you better. Let me do this. Adrian, I need you to stay safe for a few days. Is there somewhere you can go? A friend's place? A hotel? Elena thought of Sarah, then dismissed it. She wouldn't put anyone else at risk. I'll figure something out. There's money in your account, the same one from before. Use it. And Elena, don't go back to that apartment. Whoever broke in, they might come back. Okay? I'll call you when it's done. It might take a week, maybe 2. Can you hold out that long? I've held out this long. Yeah. His voice softened. You have. You're stronger than anyone I know. I'm not strong. I'm just stubborn. Same thing sometimes. A pause. Elena, when this is over, don't. She cut him off. Just fix the problem. That's all I need from you. She hung up before he could say anything else, before the softness in his voice could make her forget why she'd left in the first place. The diner suddenly felt too exposed, too bright. Elena paid for her coffee and drove to a hotel near the airport, checked in under a fake name, paid cash. The room was generic and soulless, the kind of place designed for people in transit. It suited her. She didn't sleep. Instead, she sat by the window watching planes take off, thinking about how easy it would be to get on one. Fly somewhere new, become someone else. She'd done it before, she could do it again, but she was tired of running. The next morning, Agent Mitchell called. Ms. Martinez, we've been trying to reach you. Your apartment, I know, someone broke in. I'm staying at a hotel. We need to bring you in. The situation has escalated. There's been violence connected to the Moretti-De Luca conflict, and your name came up in intercepted communications. Came up how? As a target. Ms. Martinez, these people are serious. We can protect you if you let us. Elena laughed, the sound bitter in the sterile hotel room. You can't even protect your own investigation from leaks. How are you going to protect me? We're working on identifying the source. While you're working on it, I'm going to handle this my own way. What does that mean? It means I've got someone on the inside negotiating a truce. If it works, the threat goes away. If it doesn't, I'll call you back. Who's negotiating? Miss Martinez, if you're talking to Adrian Moretti, I have to go. Elena hung up and turned off her phone. The FBI couldn't help her. Witness protection was a joke when the people hunting you had unlimited resources. She needed this to end, and the only person with the power to end it was Adrian, which meant trusting him. Again, despite everything. The first few days passed in a fog of bad TV and room service. Elena changed hotels twice, never stayed anywhere more than 2 nights. She paid for everything in cash, avoided cameras, moved like someone who'd read too many spy novels. It would have been funny if it wasn't her life. On the 4th day, her phone rang. She'd turned it back on to check messages and immediately regretted it. Unknown number. She answered anyway. Hello? Elena Martinez? A man's voice, accent she couldn't place. I have a message from Carlo De Luca. He wants to meet. Her blood went cold. I don't have anything to say to him. He says it's about the contract, says he's willing to negotiate. Negotiate what? Your life, presumably. He's offering a sit-down, neutral location. You talk, you walk away. That's the deal. And I'm supposed to trust this? Lady, I don't care what you trust. I'm just delivering the message. You want to meet or not? Elena's mind raced. This could be a trap. Could be Carlo's way of finishing what the break-in started. But it could also be real. A chance to end this without more running, more hiding, more depending on Adrian to save her. When and where? The man gave her an address in Auckland, a restaurant in the business district. Tomorrow at noon. Public place, lots of witnesses. Safer than most alternatives. I'll be there, Elena said. Come alone. And Miss Martinez, don't do anything stupid. Mr. DeLuca is being generous. Don't make him regret it. The line went dead. Elena sat on the hotel bed, phone in hand, trying to decide if she was brave or suicidal. Probably both. She should call Adrian, tell him about the meeting. Should call Agent Mitchell, let the FBI handle it. Should do anything except walk into a meeting with a crime boss alone. Instead, she booked a flight to Auckland. The restaurant was exactly as advertised. Upscale, busy. The kind of place where business deals happened over expensive wine. Elena arrived 15 minutes early, scoped out exits, noted the security cameras. She wore jeans and a jacket, nothing fancy. She wasn't here to impress anyone. Carlo DeLuca arrived exactly at noon, flanked by two men in suits who screamed bodyguard. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe 40, well-dressed in a way that suggested money without flaunting it. He spotted her immediately, waved off his security, and approached alone. Miss Martinez, thank you for coming. He slid into the booth across from her. I hope my associate wasn't too aggressive on the phone. Tony has a tendency toward drama. He said you wanted to negotiate. Straight to business. I like that. Carlo signaled the waiter, ordered an espresso. Can I get you anything? I'm fine. Suit yourself? He leaned back, studying her. You're not what I expected. Moretti's great love. I thought you'd be, I don't know, more. More what? More everything. Sophisticated, glamorous, dangerous. Instead, you're a nurse in jeans who looks like she hasn't slept in a week. He said it without malice, just observation. No offense. None taken. Are we doing this, or are you just here to insult me? Carlo smiled. Direct. I respect that. Okay, here's the situation. Your boyfriend, ex-boyfriend. Your ex-boyfriend killed my father. The car bomb that took out Victor Moretti also killed my father, who was meeting with Victor that day. Adrian claims the DeLuca family was responsible, but we both know that's a lie. He set it up, blamed us, and started a war to cover his tracks. Elena's stomach dropped. Adrian wouldn't he? He married my sister to secure an alliance, then killed both our fathers to break free of their control. Now he's trying to consolidate power while everyone's scrambling. It's actually brilliant, if you ignore the whole patricide thing. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself, Elena, who benefits most from Victor dying? Not me. Not my family. We had a stable arrangement, but Adrian, he was trapped. Forced into a marriage he didn't want, stuck under his father's thumb. Killing Victor was his only way out. Elena wanted to argue, to defend Adrian, but the logic was sound, and she'd learned the hard way that Adrian was capable of sacrifices she couldn't imagine. Killing his own father to be free? To be with her? The thought made her sick. What do you want from me? She asked. Proof. Adrian's been careful, covered his tracks. But you knew him. You were there during the planning. If he confided in you, if you have anything, recordings, messages, anything that proves he was involved, I need it. I don't have anything. We haven't spoken in months. That's unfortunate. Carlo's espresso arrived. He added sugar, stirred slowly. Because without proof, this war continues. More people die, including you, eventually. So this meeting is a threat. This meeting is an opportunity. Help me put Adrian away. I'll call off the contract. You testify about what you know. The FBI builds their case. Everyone wins, except Adrian, obviously. Elena stared at him. You want me to betray him? I want you to tell the truth. There's a difference. And if I don't? Carlo set down his spoon. Then you're choosing sides in a war you can't win. Adrian can't protect you forever, Ms. Martinez. He's too busy fighting his own battles. Sooner or later, my people will find you when you're alone, and that'll be that. Nothing personal. Sounds pretty personal. It's business. You understand business, don't you? Cost-benefit analysis. Risk versus reward. Right now, you're a risk to both of us. Adrian can't have you talking to investigators. I can't have you corroborating his lies. The smart play is to pick a side and hope it's the winning one. Elena pushed away from the table. I'm not picking sides. I'm done with all of you. Nobody's done until I say they're done. Carlo's voice hardened. You walk out of here, you're making a choice whether you admit it or not. Then I guess I'm making a choice. She stood up, ignored the stares from nearby tables, and walked out. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her pace steady, unhurried. Behind her, she heard Carlo say something to his bodyguards, heard chairs scraping. Elena made it to the street, flagged a taxi, and gave the driver her hotel address. She watched the rearview mirror the entire ride, checking for tails. Nobody followed. Either Carlo was letting her go, or he was waiting for a better opportunity. Back at the hotel, she finally let herself fall apart. She sat on the bathroom floor and cried. For herself, for Adrian, for the impossibility of the situation. Carlo's accusation kept echoing in her head. Adrian killed his own father. She wanted to dismiss it as manipulation, but it fit too well. The timing, the opportunity, the motive. Adrian had wanted out. Victor dying had given him exactly that. Her phone buzzed. Adrian. I heard about the meeting, he said without preamble. Are you okay? Did you do it? Do what? Kill your father. Carlo says you set up the car bomb, blamed his family to start the war. Is that true? Silence. Long enough that Elena knew the answer before he spoke. It's complicated. That's not a denial. Elena, did you kill him? Yes or no? Another pause. Then, quietly, yes. The word landed like a physical blow. Elena closed her eyes. Why? Because he was never going to let us go. He'd have kept threatening you, kept using you as leverage. As long as he was alive, you'd never be safe. So I made a choice. You murdered your own father. I saved your life and mine, and Isabel's. My father was a monster, Elena. He'd killed dozens of people, ruined hundreds more. The world is better without him. That's not your decision to make. Yes, it is. I'm his son. I'm the one who spent 30 years watching him destroy everything he touched. I earned the right to stop him. Elena's hands shook. And the war? The contract on me? All of this is because you killed your father and blamed someone else? The war was inevitable. The DeLucas were always going to make a move. I just gave them a reason that worked in my favor. People are dying because of you. People were already dying. They were dying when my father ran things, and they'd be dying if Carlo took over. At least this way, I can control the outcome. You can't control anything, Elena shouted. That's the whole problem. You keep making these huge decisions thinking you're protecting people, but all you're doing is making things worse. I'm trying to end this. You're trying to win. There's a difference. If you actually wanted to end it, you'd turn yourself in. Confess to killing your father, let the FBI have their case, and stop dragging innocent people into your mess. I can't do that. Why not? Because if I go down, you go down with me. You think the DeLucas care that you didn't know about the car bomb? You were connected to me. That's enough. The only reason you're alive right now is because they think you're useful. Take away that usefulness, and they'll kill you just to make a point. Elena wanted to argue, but she couldn't. He was right. She'd stepped into his world, let herself be seen with him, and now she was marked. There was no walking away clean. I can't do this anymore, she said. Her voice came out broken. I can't be the reason you justify killing people. I can't be the excuse you use to start wars. You're not an excuse. You're the only thing I've ever cared about. That's the problem, Adrian. You care too much in the wrong ways. You'd burn the world down to keep me safe, but you never asked if that's what I wanted. You never gave me a choice. I'm giving you one now. Come home. Let me protect you properly. Once the war is over, once I've secured my position, we can disappear together. New identities, new country. We can have the life we planned. You're married. Isabel and I have an understanding. She won't stand in the way. That's not the point, Elena wanted to scream. The point is that you keep building these futures without asking me first. You decided to marry her without telling me. You decided to kill your father without warning me, and now you're deciding we should run away together like the last 4 months didn't happen. When do I get to decide what I want? What do you want? The question hung between them. Elena thought about it, really thought about it, past the anger and fear and exhaustion. What did she want? I want to matter as more than someone worth protecting. I want to be treated like a partner, not a possession. I want a life where I don't have to look over my shoulder or wonder if the people I care about will die because they know me. She took a breath. And I want you to be better than your father, not just different, better. That means owning what you did. That means making real peace, not just winning the war. That means giving me the truth instead of pretty lies. Silence. Then, I don't know if I can be that person. I know. That's why I can't come back. Elena, fix the contract. End the war. Do whatever you have to do. But don't call me again. I mean it this time. She hung up before he could respond, before the grief in his voice could change her mind. Then she turned off her phone and sat in the dark hotel room, feeling like she'd just cut off a limb. Painful. Necessary. The only way to survive. The next morning, she called Agent Mitchell. I want full witness protection, Elena said. New identity, new location, everything. And I want it to include my friends, Maya in Portland, Dr. Patel, anyone who might be at risk because of me. Miss Martinez, that's going to be difficult to arrange. Then figure it out. I'll testify against Adrian, against the whole organization, but I need guarantees that the people I care about are safe first. We'll do what we can, but I need you to understand, if you testify, there's no going back. Adrian will know you betrayed him. He betrayed me first, Elena said, multiple times. I'm done protecting him from consequences. The witness protection process turned out to be less dramatic and more bureaucratic than Elena had imagined. There were forms to fill out, interviews to endure, psychological evaluations to pass. Agent Mitchell explained that the program couldn't protect Maya or Dr. Patel unless they were directly threatened, but they could monitor the situation and provide security if needed. It wasn't the guarantee Elena wanted, but it was better than nothing. Your testimony is crucial, Agent Mitchell said during one of their prep sessions. We have financial records, wiretaps, witness statements from lower-level associates. But we need someone who can speak to Adrian's direct involvement in criminal activities. Someone who is close to him. I already told you everything I know. About Victor's operations, yes. But we need you to talk about Adrian specifically. Conversations you had, things he said about the business, any indication he knew about or participated in illegal activities. Elena stared at the conference room table, at the folders of evidence spread out in front of her. Photos of crime scenes, transcripts of intercepted calls, financial statements showing money laundering through legitimate businesses. This was Adrian's world, laid bare in fluorescent lighting and bureaucratic language. He told me once that his family hurt people, she said slowly. It was early on before I really understood what that meant. We were in his car after dinner and I asked what his father did for work. He said, things that keep me up at night. I thought he was being dramatic. Agent Mitchell made a note. Did he ever discuss specific incidents? Not directly, but he'd come to my apartment sometimes, late at night, and he'd be different, quiet, angry. Once he had blood on his sleeve, not a lot, just a spatter. He said it was nothing, that he'd been at a restaurant and someone got into a fight. But the way he said it, Elena shook her head. I knew he was lying. I just didn't want to admit it. That's good. What else? The questions went on for hours. Elena dredged up memories she'd tried to bury. Dates where Adrian took phone calls he wouldn't explain. Conversations that stopped when she entered rooms. The time she found a gun in his glove compartment and he'd kissed her instead of answering her questions. Each memory felt like a betrayal, both of Adrian and of the woman she'd been when she loved him. This is enough for now, Agent Mitchell finally said. The trial's in 6 weeks. We'll prep you more as it gets closer, but you're doing great. I don't feel great. I feel like I'm destroying someone I used to love. He destroyed himself. You're just telling the truth about it. Elena wasn't sure there was a difference. The weeks before the trial passed in a strange limbo. Elena stayed in a safe house outside Wellington, a nondescript rental guarded by federal agents who were polite but distant. She wasn't allowed to contact anyone from her old life, not Maya, not Dr. Patel, not even Sarah from the hospital. The isolation was suffocating. She spent her days reading, walking the perimeter of the property, trying not to think about what was coming. At night, she lay awake and replayed conversations with Adrian, searching for the moment everything went wrong. Was it the first time he lied? The wedding? The phone call after Victor died? Or had it been doomed from the start, a nurse and a criminal pretending they could build something real? 3 weeks before the trial, Agent Mitchell arrived with news. Adrian's legal team is offering a deal. He'll plead guilty to racketeering and conspiracy charges in exchange for a reduced sentence and immunity for Isabel. The judge is inclined to accept. Elena felt something crack in her chest. So I don't have to testify? Not if he pleads out. The trial would be just a formality at that point. Why would he do that? He could fight this, probably win with his lawyers. Agent Mitchell sat down across from her. Between you and me, I think he knows you're going to testify and he doesn't want to put you through it. This way you're free. No cross-examination, no facing him in court, no defense attorney tearing apart your character to undermine your testimony. That's not... Elena stopped. It was exactly something Adrian would do. One more grand gesture, one more sacrifice that looked like love but felt like control. How long would he serve? 15 years, eligible for parole in 10. It's light for what he's done, but it ends the war. Carlo De Luca's agreed to a truce as part of the deal. No more contracts, no more violence. And me? You're still in the program if you want. New identity, relocation, the works. Or you can walk away, go back to your life. The threat's over. Elena sat with that information, tried to feel relief. It wouldn't come. Instead, she felt cheated. She'd prepared to face Adrian in court, to look him in the eye and tell the truth about what he'd done. She'd been ready to finally stand up for herself instead of being protected. And now he'd taken that from her too, made the choice before she could. I want to see him, she said. Agent Mitchell frowned. That's not protocol. I don't care about protocol. If he's doing this for me, if this is his version of making things right, I need to tell him he's wrong. I need him to hear it from me. Ms. Martinez, please, one conversation. Then I'll do whatever you want. New identity, new country, complete disappearance. Just let me say goodbye on my own terms. Agent Mitchell studied her for a long moment. I'll see what I can arrange. The meeting was set up at a federal holding facility 2 days later. Elena was escorted through multiple security checkpoints, patted down, scanned, treated like she was the criminal. Maybe she was, in a way. She'd loved a man who killed people, had closed her eyes to warning signs because being with him felt like flying. Adrian was already in the visitation room when she arrived, sitting at a metal table bolted to the floor. He wore an orange jumpsuit that looked wrong on him, made him seem smaller somehow. His hair was longer than she remembered, beginning to curl at the ends. He had shadows under his eyes. He stood when he saw her. Elena, sit down. She took the chair across from him, made sure there was space between them. I'm not here for a reunion. He sat slowly, hands clasped on the table. I wasn't sure you'd come. Agent Mitchell said you're taking a plea deal. Yeah, 15 years. Could be worse. Could be better if you fought it. Not if it meant putting you on the stand. I've done a lot of terrible things, Elena, but I'm not making you relive our relationship for a jury. He managed a weak smile. That's one line I won't cross. You think that's a kindness? Making decisions for me? Protecting me from consequences? Elena leaned forward. You still don't get it. I wanted to testify. I was ready to. You took that choice away from me, just like you took every other choice. I was trying to help. I know. That's the problem. You're always trying to help, trying to save me, trying to spare me. But I don't need saving, Adrian. I needed honesty. I needed a partner who respected me enough to let me make my own mistakes. Adrian looked down at his hands. I know I messed up. Multiple times. I really believed that if I could just handle everything myself, keep you out of the darkness, we could make it work. But I was wrong. I see that now. Do you? Because even now you're taking a plea deal to protect me. You're still playing the martyr. What was I supposed to do? Let you get torn apart on the witness stand? Let defense attorneys paint you as a criminal's girlfriend who knew what was happening and didn't care? He shook his head. I couldn't do that to you. It wasn't your decision to make. Elena's voice rose. The guard by the door shifted, but didn't intervene. My whole life, I've had people making decisions for me. My parents telling me what to study, my supervisors telling me what shifts to work, you telling me what was safe and what wasn't. I'm tired of it. I wanted to stand up in that courtroom and own my choices, good and bad. You stole that from me. Then I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the wedding, for the lies, for killing my father without telling you. I'm sorry for loving you badly. Adrian's voice cracked. But I'm not sorry for keeping you off that stand. Call it control. Call it whatever you want. I couldn't watch them destroy you. I just couldn't. Elena felt tears burning behind her eyes. She blinked them back, refused to let him see her cry. Do you remember what you said in your letter? That loving me was the only real thing you'd ever done? I remember. You were wrong. The real things aren't the easy parts. The romance, the promises, the grand gestures. The real things are hard. They're honest even when honesty hurts. They're trusting someone to stand beside you instead of behind you. What we had wasn't real. It was just two lonely people pretending. Adrian flinched like she'd hit him. That's not true, isn't it? You loved an idea of me, the good girl who could save you from your dark world. I loved an idea of you, the troubled man who just needed the right person to believe in him. But we never really knew each other, not the messy, complicated, broken parts. I knew you were strong. I knew you were kind. I knew you made me want to be better. Wanting to be better isn't the same as actually changing. Elena stood up. You're going to prison, Adrian. You'll have a lot of time to think about the man you want to be. When you get out, I hope you find someone who can love you as you actually are, not as they wish you were. And I hope you do the same for them. What about you? His voice was small. What happens to you now? I'm going to build a life that's actually mine, not running from someone, not hiding, not waiting for permission to exist, just mine. Will you be happy? Elena considered the question. I don't know, but I'll be free. That's a start. She turned to leave, got halfway to the door before Adrian spoke again. Elena. She stopped but didn't turn around. I really did love you. Maybe not well, maybe not right, but I did. I know, she said. I loved you too. That's why this hurts so much. Then she walked out, and this time she didn't look back. Agent Mitchell was waiting in the hallway. How'd it go? It's done. We're done. Can I go home now? Which home? Elena thought about Portland, about her studio apartment and Maya's paintings and Dr. Patel's samosas. She thought about New Zealand, about starting over in a place where nobody knew her history. She thought about all the places she'd run to and from, trying to outpace her own bad choices. I want to go back to Portland, she said. No new identity, no program, just me, figuring out how to live with what happened. Are you sure? The deal protects you, but there's always risk. I'm sure. I've spent too long letting fear make my decisions. It's time to make my own. Agent Mitchell nodded slowly. Okay, we'll arrange transport. But Ms. Martinez, if you change your mind, if you ever feel unsafe, you call me. Anytime, day or night. I will, thank you, for everything. 3 days later, Elena stood outside her old apartment building in Portland. The landlord had rented it to someone else, but that was fine. She didn't want to go back to that space anyway. She found a new place across town, a one-bedroom with better light and a view of the park. Maya helped her move in, asking questions Elena only half answered. So you just took a spontaneous trip to New Zealand for 4 months and now you're back? Maya unpacked kitchen supplies, eyeing Elena skeptically. Something like that. And the guy? The one you were running from? Not running anymore. He's gone. It's over. Maya set down a stack of plates. You know I don't believe you, right? Like, I'm going along with this because you're clearly not ready to talk about it, but I know something major happened. Maybe someday I'll tell you the whole story. I'll be here when you're ready. But Elena, whoever he was, whatever he did, I'm glad you're back. This place was too quiet without you. Elena hugged her, held on longer than necessary. I'm glad I'm back too. Work was harder to reclaim. Dr. Patel had filled her position, and there weren't immediate openings. Elena ended up taking a job at a different hospital across town, pediatrics this time instead of trauma. The work was gentler, sadder in different ways. Kids with cancer, babies with failing hearts, parents who'd trade their lives for their children's in a heartbeat. It reminded Elena what love was supposed to look like: messy, terrifying, utterly selfless. She thought about Adrian sometimes, wondered how he was adjusting to prison, if he'd found the redemption he was looking for. Agent Mitchell sent updates occasionally. The plea deal had been accepted, the war was officially over, the Moretti organization was being dismantled piece by piece. Isabel had left the country, gone to live with family in Europe. The estate had been seized by the government. It was done. Really done. 6 months after the trial, Elena got a letter. Prison mail, forwarded through Agent Mitchell with a note saying, "You don't have to read this if you don't want to." Elena almost threw it away unread. Instead, she made coffee, sat on her balcony, and opened it. "Elena, I'm writing this even though I know you probably won't read it. Maybe that makes it easier, talking to a ghost of you instead of the real thing. Prison is strange, quiet in a way the outside world never is. I have a lot of time to think, which is either a gift or a punishment depending on the day. Mostly, I think about choices. The ones I made, the ones I should have made differently, the ones I stole from you. You were right about everything. I did love an idea of you more than the real you. I made decisions thinking I was protecting you when really I was protecting myself from having to face what I'd become. And I took your agency away over and over because it was easier than respecting you as an equal. I'm not writing to ask forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm writing because I need you to know that I'm trying to be different, better. There's a program here: therapy, education, helping other inmates prepare for life after release. I've been working with a counselor who keeps asking me what I want my legacy to be. I used to think it was power, respect, survival. Now I think maybe it is just being honest about who I was and who I hurt. I hope you're happy. I hope Portland treats you better than I did. I hope you found someone who loves you the way you deserved all along, as a partner, not a princess to save. Take care of yourself. You're better at it than anyone I know. Adrian." Elena read the letter 3 times, then folded it and put it in a drawer. She didn't write back. Maybe she would someday. Maybe she wouldn't. For now, it was enough to know he was working on himself, finally doing the hard thing instead of the easy thing. A year passed. Then 2. Elena's life took shape in small, unremarkable ways. She got promoted to charge nurse. She adopted a cat from the shelter, a grumpy orange tabby who slept on her head and knocked things off counters. She started dating a teacher named Michael, who made her laugh and never asked about her past beyond what she volunteered. It didn't last. He wanted marriage and kids. She wanted freedom and space, but it was good while it lasted. Honest. No games. She reconnected with Mrs. Chen, who'd recovered from the IV incident and never knew how close she'd come to being collateral damage. The old woman was thrilled to have Elena back in her life, insisted on setting her up with her grandson, refused to believe Elena when she said she was happy single. "Everyone needs someone," Mrs. Chen insisted over tea in her small apartment. "I have people. I have you, and Maya, and my coworkers, and my cat." A cat is not the same as a person. Sir Fluffington would disagree. Mrs. Chen laughed, patted Elena's hand. "You're different than you used to be. Stronger, maybe. Or maybe just more settled. Whatever happened to you, it changed you." Is that good or bad? Neither, just true. We all get broken sometimes. The question is who we become when we heal. Elena thought about that conversation for days after. She'd spent so long thinking of herself as damaged, as someone defined by what Adrian had done to her. But maybe that was giving him too much power. Maybe she wasn't broken. Maybe she was just a person who'd survived something hard and come out different. On the 2nd anniversary of Adrian's conviction, Elena made a decision. She took his letter out of the drawer, along with the one he'd written before she left for New Zealand, and she burned them both in her kitchen sink. Not out of anger. She'd let go of the anger a long time ago, but because she didn't need them anymore. Didn't need the reminder of what they'd been or the promise of what they'd never become. She was 31 years old, and her life was exactly what she'd made it. Small apartment, decent job, handful of friends who knew her as she was now instead of who she'd been. No romance, no drama, no grand gestures. Just her, waking up each morning and choosing to be okay with that. It wasn't the future she'd imagined in that safe house, Waiting for Adrian with her bags packed, it was better because it was real. One night, Maya came over with takeout and wine. They ate on the floor like they had in the old apartment, Sir Fluffington supervising from his perch on the couch. "I'm moving to Seattle," Maya announced. "Got accepted to a graduate program for art therapy. It's a 2-year thing, full scholarship." "Maya, that's amazing," Elena hugged her. "I'm so proud of you." "You're not mad I'm leaving?" "Why would I be mad?" "I don't know. You've had a lot of people leave. I didn't want to be another one." Elena considered that. It was true. Her life was full of people who'd left or been forced out. Her parents, who'd drifted away when she chose nursing over business school. Adrien, who'd chosen his family over her. The friends and patients from her old life that she'd had to abandon. Even Michael, who'd left because she couldn't give him what he wanted. But Maya leaving felt different. Clean. A choice made for the right reasons instead of the wrong ones. "You're not leaving," Elena said. "You're growing. There's a difference. And I'll visit. Seattle's not that far. Promise?" "Promise." After Maya left, Elena sat on her balcony with the last of the wine, watching the city lights flicker. She thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, desperate, lovesick, willing to erase her entire existence for a man who couldn't love her right. That woman felt like a stranger now. She wasn't sure when exactly she'd changed. Maybe it was the moment she walked away from Adrian at his wedding reception. Maybe it was meeting with Victor and realizing she'd never be safe as long as she let fear make her decisions. Maybe it was the conversation with Adrian in prison, where she'd finally said out loud all the things she'd been too scared to admit. Or maybe it was all of those moments, plus the 1,000 small ones in between. Getting up each morning even when she wanted to stay in bed. Going to work. Making friends. Letting herself be heard and choosing not to let it destroy her. Building a life one boring, beautiful day at a time. 3 years after the trial, Elena received a phone call from Agent Mitchell. "Just wanted to update you. Adrian Moretti is up for parole. The hearing's next month. I thought you'd want to know." Elena's heart skipped. "Is there a chance they'll grant it?" "Good behavior, completed multiple rehabilitation programs. Has a job lined up with a construction company. Yeah, there's a decent chance." "How do you feel about that?" "I don't know. How am I supposed to feel?" "There's no supposed to. But if you want to submit a victim impact statement, either supporting or opposing his release, you have that right." Elena thought about it for days. She could oppose it, keep him locked up longer, make him serve the full sentence. It would be justified after everything he'd done. Or she could support it, help him get a second chance, show that she'd really moved on. In the end, she did neither. She didn't submit a statement at all. Adrian's parole wasn't about her. It was about whether he'd done the work to be a different person, and only he and the parole board could answer that. She found out 3 weeks later that he'd been granted parole with strict conditions. No contact with former associates, regular check-ins with a parole officer, steady employment. He'd be released in 30 days. Elena waited for the fear to hit, the old panic that he'd find her or the past would come rushing back. It didn't come. She felt nothing but a distant curiosity about what kind of man would walk out of prison after serving time for patricide and racketeering. She hoped he'd be better. She hoped he'd find peace. She hoped he'd learned that love wasn't about grand gestures and sacrifice. It was about showing up, being honest, treating people like they deserved choices. But mostly, she hoped he'd stay far away from her. She'd earned her quiet life, and she wasn't giving it up for anyone. 4 years after everything fell apart, Elena opened a free clinic. Not a big one, just a small storefront in a low-income neighborhood, staffed by volunteer nurses and doctors who believed healthcare was a right, not a privilege. She used the money Adrian had given her, the $500,000 she'd never touched except for basic expenses. It felt right, using blood money to help people who'd been hurt by systems that didn't care about them. The clinic opened on a rainy Tuesday in October. Elena stood in the doorway watching patients trickle in. A homeless man with an infected cut, a teenager who needed birth control but couldn't afford insurance, an elderly woman whose diabetes medication had gotten too expensive, people who'd fallen through the cracks, who'd been told their lives didn't matter enough to save. "You did good," Maya said. She'd driven down from Seattle for the opening, brought a painting to hang in the waiting room. "This is really good, Elena. It's just a clinic. It's not just anything. You took something terrible, that money, that whole nightmare with Adrian, and you turned it into something that helps people. That's alchemy. That's magic. Elena watched a volunteer nurse bandaging the homeless man's hand, taking time to explain how to keep it clean, treating him with dignity he probably hadn't experienced in years. This was what love looked like, she thought. Not romance, not sacrifice, not dramatic gestures, just showing up for people who needed help and treating them like they mattered. I don't know about magic, Elena said, but it feels right. For the first time in a long time, something feels right. The clinic became her life. She worked there 3 days a week, picked up shifts at the hospital the other days to pay rent. She was busy, tired, sometimes overwhelmed, but she was also useful, needed, part of something bigger than her own pain. On the clinic's 6-month anniversary, a man walked in asking for Elena by name. She looked up from charting and her breath caught. For one horrible moment, she thought it was Adrian. Same height, same build, but when he turned around, she saw it was someone else, one of Victor's old associates, someone she'd seen at dinners years ago. "Can I help you?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "Probably not. I'm not here as a patient." He glanced around the clinic, taking in the donated furniture and volunteer staff. "I heard you were doing this. Wanted to see it for myself." "Why?" "Because people talk. The Moretti nurse who brought down the family, who used the blood money to start a free clinic. It's a hell of a story." He met her eyes. "For what it's worth, I think it's good. What you're doing here, Victor would have hated it, but that probably means it's right." "I don't need your approval." "I know. I just wanted you to hear it anyway." He headed for the door, paused with his hand on the frame. "Adrian got out last month, in case you didn't know. He's working construction in Chicago, keeping his head down. I don't think he's coming back to Portland, if that's what you're worried about." "I'm not worried." "Good. You shouldn't be. He's different now, quieter. People say he talks about you sometimes, but never by name. Just someone I used to know who deserved better." "Figured you'd want to know he's not causing trouble." Elena nodded, unable to form words. The man left, and she stood there for a long moment processing the information. Adrian was out. He was in Chicago. He talked about her but didn't use her name, like even mentioning her directly would be a violation of boundaries he'd finally learned to respect. It was the best she could hope for. The only kind of closure that made sense. 5 years after she'd watched Adrian marry someone else on television, Elena turned 33. Maya threw her a party, just a small gathering at the clinic after hours, with cake and cheap wine and a playlist of songs they'd listened to in the old apartment. Dr. Patel came, and Sarah from New Zealand, who'd flown over for a nursing conference, and Mrs. Chen, who insisted on making enough food for an army. "Make a wish," Maya said, lighting the candles. Elena looked around at the faces of people who loved her for who she was, not who they wanted her to be. People she'd chosen and who'd chosen her back. A life built from scratch after everything fell apart. She closed her eyes and made a wish. Not for romance or redemption or anything dramatic, just for the strength to keep building this life, day by day, choice by choice. To keep showing up for herself and the people who needed her. To stay free. She blew out the candles and everyone cheered. Maya cut the cake. Dr. Patel told a terrible joke. Mrs. Chen tried again to set her up with her grandson. Normal, boring, beautiful. Later, after everyone had left and Elena was cleaning up, she found a card on the reception desk. No name, no return address. Inside was a single sentence in handwriting she recognized instantly. "I'm proud of you. Be happy." Elena stared at it for a long time. Then she tucked it in her wallet, not quite ready to let it go, but not willing to display it either. Somewhere in the middle, like most things about her and Adrian, she turned off the lights and locked the clinic, walked to her car under a sky full of stars. Tomorrow she'd be back here, treating patients who couldn't afford treatment anywhere else. Next week she had a date with a guy Maya had insisted on setting her up with. She'd probably cancel, but she might not. Next month she'd visit her parents for the first time in years, attempt a reconciliation that would either heal old wounds or confirm they were better apart. The future was uncertain, messy, entirely hers. Elena had learned the hard way that love, real love, wasn't about someone saving you or you saving them. It was about showing up honestly, respecting choices, building something together that made both people better. She hadn't found that with Adrian. Maybe she'd find it someday with someone else. Maybe she wouldn't, and that would be okay too. Because she'd already found something more important. She'd found herself. The woman who'd survived betrayal and threats and heartbreak. The woman who'd turned pain into purpose. The woman who'd learned that being saved meant nothing if you couldn't save yourself first. Elena drove home through empty streets, and for the first time in 5 years, she felt something she'd almost forgotten. Not happiness exactly, but something close. Peace. The knowledge that she'd survived the worst thing that had ever happened to her, and she'd come out the other side whole. Different,